This video is brought to you by Mubi, a curated streaming service showing exceptional films from around the globe. Get a whole month free at Mubi.com/Karsten. Boo! Welcome back to What I Watched This Month, October edition. Ooh! This month I put out my short film Dirtbag, which you can watch now on Vimeo. Link in the description. Moving on. I started this month with Blonde. You guys have a pretty good idea of how I feel about this one. I wanted to like it. I did. And I thought it had a lot of potential and was relatively well shot. But at the end of the day, this just came across as incredibly exploitative and gross. Don't entirely know what the point of all of it was. And for as extreme and intense as it came across, I honestly forgot I watched it, which is more shocking than the film itself. Then I watched Catch Me If You Can. I remember seeing this when I was younger, but honestly, up until this rewatch, I couldn't remember a single thing about it, so it was due for a revisit, and my god is this a good one. Spielberg knows how to make an entertaining-ass movie. I mean, you could argue the true story of this man could be thrilling, regardless of who's directing, but Spielberg can tie it into family and legacy in such a graceful way that not a lot of other filmmakers would be able to. Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing in this movie. This might be one of my favorite performances of his, and Tom Hanks was alright in comparison. I'm just glad I decided to revisit this one. Then I watched Girl Interrupted. Going into this, I was expecting another form of The Virgin Suicides or something, but instead I got a relatively safe and straightforward drama about mental illness. I was invested, but I never felt particularly moved by anything going on by the end. The story and depiction of depression may have felt pretty forward-thinking at the time, but I guess watching it now, it just all felt very cliche. And this isn't really an issue. The movie remains compelling, and it never took me out or anything. All of the performances here are phenomenal, in my opinion. Amazingly, Angelina Jolie is able to get away with being as over-the-top as she is. But I walked away a little numb about everything that happened, which was a bummer because I wanted to love this a bit more than I did. And I rewatched Raw for the trillionth time. I've been meaning to revisit this post T10 just to see if it holds up. And while I'm not surprised to say that T10 is a step above this, I still consider this one of the strongest and richest directorial debuts I've ever seen. Ducournau goes a step above delivering just an already squirmish body horror coming-of-age story by exploring themes of hierarchy and familial trauma at the same time. The ethics of how we treat animals, the unavoidable traits we adapt from our parents. It is an incredibly angsty and rich film on a rewatch, which explains why I just really resonated with it and still do. One day I may grow out of this movie, but for now I'm gonna enjoy every second of this disgusting, beautiful film. Then I rewatched Bros. A damn shame Bros has gotten so shit on this month in box office performance and audience reviews. I stand by the fact that this is a ridiculously charming and funny rom-com that shares many of the same comfort watch traits as some of my favorite comfort watches. I admire romantic comedies that take absolutely zero risks but still feel like their own thing, and that's what Bros is. And I watched Triangle of Sadness, and oh boy, I loved this one. Ruben Östlund has always been a bit of a hit or miss for me. I love his style and humor, but his films have always felt almost too dry or too up their own ass to enjoy them fully. And while Triangle of Sadness may not bring anything new to the Eat the Rich approach, in all honesty, it is very close to being an Adam McKay movie. The film has too much fun for that to even be an issue. This thing is a blast and scratches that same itch that, like, Climax did, where many people are trapped in an enclosed space and experience uncontrollable bodily issues. As gross as it is, I just eat that shit up and have so much fun with those kinds of movies. The third act feels like an entirely different movie and feels like the best version of his typical social experiment approach to filmmaking. It is beautifully shot. I love the fact that every shot is like a fly in the wall, kind of in the corner, and you get to just watch everything unfold. And that cliffhanger of an ending worked perfectly for me. I think it is a little bit too long, just like a lot of his movies. That's the only thing holding this back for me. But I mean, this is one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. I can't remember the last time I laughed this hard in a theater, and I just cannot wait to watch it again. Then I watched the original Child's Play. I don't know why I always wrote this one off, but this is good. Chucky is such a little freak. I love him. Some of this doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't think it really is trying to be anything more than a silly horror movie, but who cares? When the villain is this much of a little freak, who could complain? I also just really like how attentive this is to Chicago. It weirdly feels like one of the most accurate Chicago movies I've ever seen, which was so unexpected coming from the Chucky movie. But yeah, I loved it. And I watched Lyle Lyle Crocodile. Man, I only went to see this thing so I could do a video on it, but when I got out of the theater, I realized it was the most average kids movie ever, which sent me into an existential crisis of if I should even make the video, why do I even make videos, and what is the point of movies anyway? Is Shawn Mendes giving a performance here, or is he just recording songs and they make a crocodile sing the songs? If that is the case, why is he in the For Your Consideration campaign for Best Supporting Actor if he didn't act. Nothing makes sense, and the movie isn't bad. There's nothing to say about this one. Why did I watch this? Then I watched Crimson Peak. Sometimes Guillermo del Toro makes movies I never want to leave. Other times, I couldn't care less about what's happening. Unfortunately, Crimson Peak is one of those movies. It's not a bad movie by any means. I think it's an incredibly dense and rich ghost story, and I feel like if this was more my style, I would love it. But it really could not be further from my taste. I appreciate the attention to detail. It's undeniably well made. Just didn't really vibe with me personally. Then I watched Woman in the Dunes. You know, I'm really sorry that I just used the word vibe in that last movie, and I'm sorry that I'm about to use this word, but this is one of the trippiest horror movies I've ever seen. Like, up there with The Shining, just as far as how subtly it creeps its way into your subconscious. Having read the book, I would say this is one of the best adaptations I've ever seen in film. It both does the text justice and expands on it visually the way a story like this absolutely needs to. Like, kind of the ideal adaptation when you think about it. I cannot recommend it enough. I cannot believe this isn't more talked about. And I watched Christine. John Carpenter really knows how to make anything look scary, doesn't he? This movie surprised the hell out of me. For one, it looks fantastic. I love the way the road always looks freshly rained on. It adds to this whole black, leathery, oily style of it. Arnie is such a slime ball of a character, but I could not take my eyes off of him. He has a great descent into madness, and the unique premise was executed with such confidence that you don't even question the plot holes in this. You kind of just are there for the fun of it. I would love to double feature this with T10 someday, but yeah, great time. Then I watched Tar, and yes, this is an amazing movie. What is there to say about Tar that hasn't already been said at this point? I think Tar has resonated with many, including myself, because it's just so nuanced. This isn't a movie that sees anything in black and white. It looks at its subjects and the themes revolving around them as complicated, nuanced topics. It isn't a movie that spoon feeds information or tells the viewer how to feel. It slowly peels back its main character from a distance, making something both cinematically grand and almost frustratingly intimate. In the end, you get a film that examines power, self-destructiveness, and ego that feels both incredibly current but also strong enough to withstand the test of time. It is like the polar opposite of an Adam McKay approach to making films about complicated people, in that, yeah, it's not telling you how to feel, it's not shoving its opinion down your throat, and by giving a more full, nuanced look at a character, you get a better understanding of them. And it never feels above the audience in doing so. This thing has a dry, self-aware sense of humor that is so rare in a film that is simultaneously incredibly dark. This is kind of embarrassing, but it challenged the way I watch movies in many ways, because I kept waiting for it to like explain what was happening and how the film felt about that thing that was happening. But instead you get this documentary-like empathy for the character where it understands we're dealing with a human person, and all in all makes for a much more interesting experience. And of all the amazing films I watched this month, this is the one that I have not been able to stop thinking about, and that just speaks to how powerful and fascinating of a film it is. I just loved it, and I cannot wait to see it again. Believe the hype. Tar rules. Then I watched Creature from the Black Lagoon. I can't tell you how good it feels to be in the mood to watch this movie and then watch it. I mean, this is seriously one of the best of these classic Hollywood horror movies, right up there with The Invisible Man, where I'm like, how could you not have fun? It's literally the perfect length for a movie too. There's not much else to say. Then I watched Beau Travail. Man, does it feel good to finally love a Claire Denis movie like this. This is just one of the best shot movies ever made. Genuinely do not think there is a single shot that isn't framed perfectly. But that's the thing, it isn't just about pretty shots here. The shots actually work incredibly well with the repressive environment the film takes place in. It's kind of a hard movie to talk about. I may make an entire video just about this movie at some point, but what I'll say for now is I can't believe I made that dance party ending video and didn't talk about this one. Then I watched How to Blow Up a Pipeline at the Chicago International Film Festival. This is a climate activist heist movie, and you can probably tell what they're gonna do just based on that title. In the same way Bresson keeps you on edge in A Man Escapes, Goldhaber does an excellent job at creating tension despite giving away what happens before you even start the movie. It's beautifully shot, the acting is really great, and there's a lot of much needed humor that worked really well. I guess if I were to describe this movie, it's like Ocean's 11 mixed with A Man Escapes mixed with Good Time, strangely enough. It's just a very well-made movie with not a ton of issues that definitely left me with sweaty palms. And I watched Aftersun at the Chicago International Film Festival. I've talked about a lot of great movies from this month, but this might be my movie of the year. Aftersun is about a father and daughter on a vacation told through the eyes of the daughter 20 years later and partially through home video footage. It is a deeply personal film about what we do and don't know about our parents and the memories of them that stick with us. Everything from the calm, laid-back approach to the filmmaking to the incredibly realistic performances from Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio worked really well for me. It struck a very personal nerve that left me in tears on my way out of the theater. Like, I couldn't even really talk about it without choking up. And it's a very subtle film with how it reveals certain information, so it may not click with you initially, but I was there every step of the way, despite having a very different upbringing. And isn't that just the beauty of film at the end of the day? Then I watched Black Adam, and anyway, movies suck. Then I rewatched Mandy. This is my first time rewatching Mandy, and holy shit does it hold up. This movie is a blast. It isn't even as slow as I remember it being. All of that slowness near the beginning serves a purpose in drawing the viewer into this world so that when things really take off, you feel it in your bones. I deeply respect Panos Cosmatos' extremely textural approach to filmmaking. It's a commitment to style that I don't think any other filmmaker is on the same level with today. This is a terrifying, beautiful, hilarious, and cool ass movie. And if you haven't seen this thing yet, what are you doing? And I rewatched Red Rocket. Not a lot to add. I just liked this movie. Then I watched Alcaraz at the Chicago International Film Festival. This is my first Carla Simone film, and I wish I liked it more. She is amazing at directing children and has much to say about that perspective. In fact, pretty much every member of this large family is shown with so much empathy and care, no matter how reckless their decisions are, and that's always nice to see. I just really did not connect with this for most of its runtime. I kind of got there in the last 30 minutes, but for most of this, I was dozing off a bit, I'm not gonna lie. Then I watched All the Beauty and the Bloodshed at the Chicago International Film Festival. This documentary is about the legendary photographer Nan Goldin, and god damn it, this is a masterpiece. I mean, really, one of the greatest documentaries I think I've ever seen, easily. It's not like the most out there experimental documentary. There are your traditional talking headshots, sure, but the editing and the way it goes back and forth between photography, archival footage, and current footage was just breathtaking and captivating right from the start. I don't know how you can watch this and not get immediately sucked into it. I don't know how you can watch it and not walk away emotionally drained by the end of it. This thing has it all. I can't wait to discuss this further down the line because, like a lot of movies on this list, this is seriously one of my favorite movies of the year that will definitely come up again. When you watch a good documentary, you want to tell everybody about it, and this is one of those documentaries. Then I finished the month with White Noise at the Chicago International Film Festival. It may not come as a surprise that this was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, mostly because Noah Baumbach's last movie was my favorite of that year, and it seemed like a pretty absurd film starring Adam Driver, and one of those types of movies was one of my favorites of last year. So I was like, how can this lose? Even if it's messy, I feel like I'm gonna like it. But damn, I didn't click with this one. It has some phenomenal moments. There's a 30-minute stretch in the middle that is pretty much flawless where I thought it was really gonna turn into something special, but then it drops a lot of the good stuff and turns into an extremely tedious and wordy movie that reminded me of all the things I don't like about Noah Baumbach. And once it was in that territory, it never won me back. Adam Driver and Greta Gerwig are both great, although I felt Gerwig's character was severely underwritten. I haven't read the book, and I'm kind of curious to read the book now. The best part is probably the humor. This thing is hilarious. But yeah, it's kind of a headache, and I felt very empty and confused and underwhelmed by the end of it. Knowing how excited I was for this hurts me to say just as much as it hurts you to hear. And hey, that's what I watched this month. So many movies, I'm gonna go take a nap now. Thanks for watching. Go watch all these films and form your own opinion. But before you head out, I want to thank this week's sponsor, Mubi. Mubi is a curated streaming service, a place to watch beautiful, interesting, and incredible cinema. From iconic directors to emerging auteurs, there's always something new to discover. With Mubi, each and every film is hand-selected. It's like your own personal film festival, streaming anytime, anywhere. I love Mubi. I've been talking about them for a while, and it's because they're great, and it's a service that I really like to support. You guys are always like, thank you for showing me what to watch, and I'm like, who do you think is showing me what to watch? Every night, if I'm trying to figure out, something to watch, I throw on Mubi, and everything on their site is kind of overwhelming, honestly, because it's a lot of good stuff selected by actual people who have seen the films and think you should check them out yourselves. You can try Mubi free for 30 days at mubi.com/Karsten. That's mubi.com/Karsten for a whole month of amazing cinema for free.